everybody. Welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada. We are stand-up comedians.
Stand-up comedians that are currently jobless because of the coronavirus.
We're finally going to be the doctors our mothers wanted us to be.
Is there anything that we don't know?
A lot, actually. We have a lot of questions. We have a lot of answers.
All of them wrong.
But we do have access to...
Google.
And a vet.
Oh yeah, my mom's a vet. She knows some stuff. We have to do this
So
again.
every once in a while, we're going to invite her on. No, we don't. We're going to actually use this. Welcome to Two Non-Doctors.
Hi, welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
And I've done almost nothing. I was on a good working streak for, I would say, like 3 weeks. And then I hit a wall where I was like, is this my life? And I just couldn't motivate myself past that.
Oh, God, that's really funny because this morning I was like, I have so much to do. And then I was like, for what? I just started crying. I mean, I'm mostly happy. I know I say I cry a lot on this podcast and I'm angry and stuff, but I'm mostly happy. But like, it's just the for what? It just got to me.
I mean, I've always talked to myself. Like that is, I mean, I tell jokes to myself. I talk in my head. I've definitely talked out loud. But I find myself having full-blown conversations, not out loud, mostly in my head, but like full-blown conversations with myself, almost like that, where I'm just like, man, I got to get this stuff done. And I'm just like, I'll do it tomorrow. I have an endless amount of tomorrows. Like I am like flush with tomorrows. I have like those kind of thoughts where I'm just like going on these weird rants that like I almost feel guilty about having them with myself.
But like the rants being
these open-ended conversations that I have with myself. Like I used to not have space to talk to myself in that kind of length. Like it used to be like, we got to go get this thing. And it's like, all right. And then you go and get it. And maybe you listen to some music and then you go into the next thing. And now it's like, I have a thought and then I just have a full conversation with myself as I do the dishes for the 4th time today.
It's who I used to be when I was a kid. It was like I used to zone out all the time and just thinking. And like, I haven't done that in so long. I'm like, I think a lot less these days. And now that I have time again and I'm bored with the internet, and I think it's good for creativity. I think it's good for jokes. I think it's good to have that space.
Oh, I don't think it's bad at all. And especially for creative people. But I think me personally, I struggle with anything that is goalless. I ran marathons for years and, I didn't hate them, but I didn't love them. But half the reason I would sign up every year to do a marathon was because it motivated me to run every day, or at least a substantial amount of time in a week. And I mean, it's so funny because we're going to end up talking about this for their topic, but there is something about doing something just to do it is really not efficient for me. I need some kind of larger goal at the end. So with stand-up, yes, I like telling jokes. Yes, doing the show and performing it is part of it, but building up to perform an hour or building up for some bigger thing like being on TV, like some kind of larger goal helps keep me focused. And I think I've had too many sad conversations. Like I was talking to Judah Friedlander last night, and he said on the phone, he's like, this could be anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. And he said 2 years, and I wanted to hang up on him. I wanted to be like, Judah, I can't believe you just said that to me. Like, I was like, I can't hear we're not going to do stand-up for 2 years. Like, I cannot.
I was thinking about that because as they ease restrictions, it's like, it's not like they're going to let a comedy club happen. Can you imagine Top Secret? Hundreds of people are packed in together.
Well, what they did right before, at least in New York City, what they did right before was they had them half full. So if a room fits 200, they would have 100 and they would have it more spaced. Is that a real solution? Probably not, especially because laughing is a very opened mouth form of expression. I'm not saying there's not so many problems with that. And I agree, it's probably not the first thing that's going to be open. All that being said, I couldn't hear 2 years because I really think like I stopped doing work after that conversation. I was like, and I'm going to just clean my desk because that seems like it has value right now. I'm not saying not based on enjoyment. I enjoy what I'm doing, but there's too much about what we do that isn't fun and is real work that what motivates me is the larger goal.
Like what if this podcast got like a huge advertiser and we got hundreds of thousands of dollars, let's just say.
Yeah.
And And then we could never leave the house. It'd be like, what's the point of all of the money?
Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
You know?
You're just like, I
And like,
finally have all the money and I can buy all the clothes, but no one's gonna ever see it.
yeah, like I have these worst case scenarios in my head, or like it's just you get everything you ever dreamed of, and then it's a useless currency in the current climate.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Do you think there's women that like just got a boob job and like they saved up for it and now there's nobody to like impress people with it? Like I just feel like
yeah,
there's like these
but they have
weird
the internet. They can Instagram that shit easily. Like they have that.
Yeah, maybe not the best example. But I'm just
No,
like trying to think of something you spent like real money on. Like I don't know, like I guess you could still use a Ferrari. I don't know why I'm thinking of
or
all
you
the
just
douchiest
opened a
examples.
cupcake business. You know,
Yeah,
you just
well, yeah, every
it
business
was your
is
dream to own a bakery, and so you're like, oh, I can deliver. Like I ordered Indian food the other night, and this woman delivered it herself, and I very nearly like almost burst out into tears just because I know she's just trying to stay afloat and like she can't maybe afford to hire someone to deliver it for. I'm like, you're going out at, and by the way, my food was an hour and a half late and I didn't even care. Like she was just working on her own and trying to make a living and trying to stay afloat. And I just wanted to hug her. Like I just felt so bad.
We're gonna start personally delivering jokes. That's what I got from that. I'm just saying we're gonna start being delivery people, and we'll be like, "Hey, here's your delivery, and can I tell you 3 jokes? Please don't slam the door in my face." Oh.
Oh my God, Papa John's! If you're looking for a new commercial, that is really funny.
I just want
At least throw the pizza at me.
Give me some pepperoni. Oh God, thank you.
Do you want to get into our emails?
Yeah, we've gotten so many emails and like
we're loving them.
I love them, and people are giving us like such great advice, and like they're so thoughtful. I try to get back to everybody right away, but like we'll slowly get back to people on the podcast. But this might be my favorite email. You have it, right, Maria?
Yeah, so it's written from, and the email address is really cute. It's the number 2, and then it's okay. I don't even know how to read this out loud. It's 2, the number, not the bread, doctors, the word at email.cz. So like,
I just love
the person is poking fun of like when Liz tries to give our email address at the end of the podcast, and it's just like 2, the number 2, non, like,
but not bread. It's not bread.
Yeah,
it's totally. It sounds like it.
So they have this email address. That was fun. So they write, "Hey guys, thank you for such a cool podcast. I didn't think I could enjoy a podcast like that, but I actually got through the first 3 episodes in one go." I used to have a tweet that said, "Nothing undercuts a compliment like the word actually."
Yep.
Like
yep.
I actually had a really good time.
Yeah.
But no, this is still really nice. I just had to throw in my own self-deprecating humor. So thumbs up and keep going because you're rocking it, and smiley face. And please don't change that name. Cheers, non-comedian, NAAN.
Loved it.
Thank you for the writing that.
I think it's because we call each other morons in every episode that people are like, we can let them know that we see it. I see you. And it's okay. And I'm like, well, thank you. Thank you, person, lady or man. I appreciate I loved it. I thought it made me laugh, and I appreciate people giving us like legitimate, like, hey, this is what I do for my psoriasis, or this is what I do for my anxiety, to just people being like, this is fully unhelpful and uninformed, but it's enjoyable and funny, and thank you. And I'm like, cool. All right.
That's great. That's all we want.
That's all we wanted. We wanted a discussion so people can help other people, because that's how I've healed myself, is researching like we do and discussing it with others and just truly trial and error. And then I just like also being silly about it. So I'm very happy. We should get into our Googles. I did so much research and then forgot all my research.
Okay. I have a webpage up for mine because I wasn't going to remember all of it, but yes.
Also with mine, it's actually like, I don't know. I've hit a wall. Like mine was, why do some people never get cavities? And this is the thing. I thought I was this person, and then I just stopped being this person. I didn't have any cavities until I was, I think, 29. And then the floodgates opened, and now my teeth are just like rotting out of my head. But I had a boyfriend 10 years ago that his teeth...
I knew it was because of a man.
Yeah. He kissed me, and now I cannot... But no, he truly like was one of the first people that was like constantly going to the dentist. His teeth were rotting out of his head, but he also would like suck on Jolly Ranchers all day. And I was like, yeah, I don't think you should just have sugar in your mouth all day. Like, I don't think that's the right thing to do. So I fully blamed him. I was just like, you have literally like Jolly Ranch, you should sue Jolly Ranchers and they should just pay for your dental bills. But I was one of those people that always ate just as much sugar as most people and never got cavities. And then I kind of discussed it in another episode about getting Invisalign, but basically through having Invisalign and like shoving it in my mouth and not having it, like, I guess not always being able to brush my teeth after I ate when I was out, it just caused all this bacteria and stuff. So basically what they said is, first of all, like 1% of the world is just immune. Like, just some people they just don't get cavities. It doesn't matter how much sugar they eat, whatever, they just don't.
I seem to be one of those people. I've never had a cavity.
What? What about your parents?
I don't know. I don't think they've had a cavity. I don't know. I don't think so.
Dude, but that's what they say. They basically say it's genetic. Like, that's what all the research says. Like, if you're a person, like, basically, if you get a lot of cavities, it's mostly due to genetics. And if you don't get a lot of cavities, it's mostly due to genetics. It has to do with, like, how strong your enamel is. Basically, it's between bacteria and sugar, but really, like food particles turning into sugar. But yes, brushing and flossing and all that stuff helps, but there is kind of a limit to it, because I couldn't get fully into it, but there's just some people that they just have more bacteria in their mouth. I don't know. It has to do with genetics. But you must have like one of those fancy mouths. You have a fancy mouth.
I have a fancy mouth full of not bacteria. It's from all my not brushing my teeth in the evening. And I don't know. It just never had a cavity, never had a filling. I don't know what that's like.
Wow.
I guess, I'm just one of the chosen ones.
You are, though. Do you know how many people don't have dental that are like, oh, I would just take your mouth? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, because my parents are like full, like if my parents open their mouth, it's like full of like silver or like whatever, before things were like the same shade of your tooth. Like now, like you open your mouth and you can't tell that you have cavities, but like my parents have like, not jewelry, but like it's just...
They got a little bling in their mouth.
Yeah.
You said you never got them until you were 29. And what do you really think? Because I feel like we made jokes, but I don't think you said what you really thought changed.
It's the Invisalign. It's the fact. So basically, right. So I was always pretty obsessive about brushing my teeth. Like I said, I would do it about 4 or 5 times a day. I've always, for some reason, linked brushing my teeth to leaving the house. So it's like, get up, go for a run, brush my teeth. Get up, go to a meeting, brush my teeth. Right before I do shows, brush my teeth. Before I go to bed, brush my teeth. Like on average, and I would always floss. Dude, I was down to flossing like once a day, and now because of the quarantine, I'm flossing like 3 times a day. Like, I don't know.
Don't blame the quarantine for that, Liz.
Shut up. I just, I'm also like habitually eating. Like, there are no meals anymore. It's just a constant grazing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've always been a little obsessive about my teeth. Even when I had braces when I was a kid, I had them twice. I never had an issue with cavities. And then Invisalign, just the way it works, it's these trays and you have to keep them in your mouth like truly 23 hours a day, but you take them out to eat. You're supposed to brush your teeth, but like I would be out all day and I wouldn't either have a toothbrush, so I would just rinse or something. I just did a shitty job. And so I would be like truly slamming food particles into my molars. And then I would go home and brush my teeth, but it'd be too late. I would have had like these food particles just like fermenting for hours. And I think it was then that I started getting them, and then I would sleep with it in my mouth after I finished my Invisalign. You use it as a retainer, and I had acid reflux, so it was getting into the retainer. So now, since I don't use my retainer anymore, I've been fine. But there was something about just whatever's going on with my stomach and my mouth, and it being this weird casket for my teeth. I don't know. So I think I actually had decent teeth, or at least good hygiene. And then this thing to straighten my teeth took me to a bad place. And now I've cried in a dentist's office every year for several years.
Does it hurt to get your cavities filled?
It doesn't hurt to get your cavities filled, but it's not fun. Like, I had to get a root canal, I think 3 years ago. Besides like financially it being like one of the most heartbreaking things, it truly is like, because I'm a saver. So like if I don't spend my money on stuff I want and I save and I save and I save, and then my car breaks down or I get a cavity, it's like, cool, I just saved all this money for something I have to now spend it on shit. Like, I have to now spend my savings on garbage. Like, and it feels like it's my fault when it's a cavity, or like if I hit somebody with my car, like when it's your fault and now you're spending like $2,000, you're like, cool, good job, Liz. You saved all this money for a bad day. Like,
that is heartbreaking.
It
is it $2,000 just to fill a cavity?
Or like if you get a speeding ticket, it's like whenever you end up spending money on something that like feels like it's your fault, and it's like, oh, I could have bought that pair of shoes I wanted, but I didn't. I was responsible. And then you find out that you've been irresponsible for 3 months with your mouth.
Yeah, I used to, when I lived in LA, I used to have to factor in the price of a parking ticket into my rent. So if the place I lived in was, say, $800 a month, but it was only street parking, I said my place was $1,100 a month so that it didn't piss me off when inevitably, it was going to happen. If you have only street parking, you're going to get a ticket. That's the only way that let me think about it, because otherwise it would just drive me insane that I'm throwing this money away for no reason.
Yeah, I never factored in imperfection into my budget. It was always like, just be perfect, Liz, and you won't have a problem. And then of course, like I hit something with my car, I get a speeding ticket, and my mouth falls out of my head. And it's been a rough couple of years, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I am such a budgeter and I am so responsible with my money. And like, even now, like I'm living off my savings now, and I'm grateful that I have the savings to live off of, but I almost feel like as I live off my savings because of the coronavirus, I'm just like, oh my God, luckily I'm not getting in my car. Luckily I'm brushing my teeth more than I ever have. Like I literally am like, this is taking away from my ability to make mistakes in the future. This is my mistake fund. This isn't my savings.
Yeah, you need a mistake fund.
I do need a mistake fund.
I Googled, are horror movies bad for you?
Oh, interesting.
Because I watched a horror movie last night with Johnny and one of his housemates. And I didn't want to. It was one of those things where I came into the living room, it was already on. And it was a Stephen King film. I don't like horror movies. Let that be known. But I watched it. But like I found myself squirming and like hiding my face and just feeling, oh God, I don't like reacting like that. I don't like movies causing me to react like that. I don't like being scared. But I mean, obviously other people like it or it wouldn't be a genre. And Johnny and I were talking after. I hate it. And Johnny and I were talking after, and he was like, I like it because he was like, it sort of allows you to take a look at the dark side of life, like in a safe way. And I'm like watching it going, don't give people ideas because people can be horrible.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like he had this like pipe cleaner analogy with like the friction is painful, but it's cleansing. It's like it's painful to watch these things, but it's cleansing. You just get to examine the idea like from like in this. Yes.
I'll say this, and I'll let you tell me what the Google machine says. If it's a horror movie and it can't happen, like it's a goblin or a ghost, doesn't bother me much. I still jump and stuff.
Exactly what I told Johnny.
But if it's a serial killer, if it's like a serial rapist, if it's a torture porn or whatever that kind of genre is, I cannot do it. That shit happens. People are crazy. I travel by myself at 2 a.m. at gas stations. I cannot. Anything that could actually happen.
What I said to him.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care if it's some supernatural ghost. I don't give a shit about a goblin. But if it's an actual human psycho, I can't deal with it.
Yeah. I can't do it.
Well, so I found one website that says has 7 scientific reasons. It's a listicle that prove watching horror movies is actually good for your health.
Wow.
And the first one amazed me. It actually did amaze me. And it was because it can burn nearly 200 calories at a time because of...
You're like, am I exercising?
That's what I was like, it actually kind of fits nicely into our topic today, but yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was like, watching 90 minutes of a horror movie can use up as much as 113 calories. And thing is, that's equivalent to a 30-minute walk or a chocolate bar, which I always eat. If that's the case, if it's fight or flight, if it's adrenaline, then that means stand-up must burn calories just from nerves alone.
That's a really good example. Or it's a really good correlation.
It says it helps you cope with anxiety because of fight or flight, and it pumps up adrenaline, glucose, and cortisol in our bodies. It enhances your brain activity. It boosts your immune system. It's good for your relationship because you can be like, oh, baby, save me. And but also because, like, if you've heard that, like, couples who go through a scary situation together are, like, more connected. after.
Oh, yeah.
So it releases dopamine and serotonin. So it's supposed to help with that. And then it can stimulate and trigger your DNA. This one, I was just like, did you just need a sixth bullet point? It's deep within our DNAs. We have the urge to act, and watching horror movies aggravates it. And you can get rid of stress. But
A need to act? I don't understand.
well, exactly. I don't get it either.
Okay, fuck that one. Fuck number 6.
So fuck 6 and 7. It's just like 7 is basically like it'll help you get rid of stress, which if you recall number 1,
it causes stress.
Or no, number 2. No, not it causes stress, but it helps you cope with anxiety. So it's like you can't separate stress and anxiety. It's
yeah, no, yeah, yeah. What are you doing? All right, dude. Yeah, you're just trying to. How many words did you have to write for this article? Dude, I read Marie Kondo's the cleaning
joy of cleaning your shit.
Yeah, the joy of tidying up or whatever. And there were some good parts to it, but it was a blog that got published into a book. Like it should have been 12 pages, but she got a book deal and she turned 12 pages into 100 pages. And I was just I would read it and I'd be like, truly like just yelling at her. I'd be like, what was the word count? Maria, what was the word count? Like, why? Why are you talking about linen on the floor of your closet right now? Like, why are you describing a shirt you once met? Like, I can't.
100%. We have a friend who asked a journalist once in a podcast, like, you ever get away with a very, very? and Johnny and I say that, we use that every time we read an article that was clearly trying to hit a word count. Like, you ever get away with a very, very? Yeah, Marie Kondo, like she was writing that, like, I know she was thinking, let's see if I can get away with this.
Dude, it was an interesting idea that turned into a pretty decent blog, that turned into a not great book, that turned into a horrible Netflix show. Like,
absolutely,
I'm proud of her. Like, she has conned the world, and I'm happy for, I think she has value, although I think I have a joke about it. I think she's heartless, just throwing away things that mean something to her family. Jesus. She's like, if it's sentimental, but you don't touch it every day, just get rid of it. And you're just like, whoa, I'm sorry you don't have love in your heart.
No, you know what? I'll give her credit for that. I needed that because I would keep a lot of shit, like birthday cards and stuff that I just don't want to keep. And, it's just thank it for its service and throw it out. And it kind of gave me permission to throw out a lot of stuff that I just didn't want.
I do agree. No, I will say this. I do think she has value, but how she's taken what truly is a Post-it note of thoughts and turned it into a pretty much like a multi-million-dollar business that's just a good businesswoman. That is just a smart, talented businesswoman. Because I think what's hard for us is that for stand-up, you choose every single word. And it's about getting it the best word, where the word lands, and as few words and as few details sometimes to get to the final point. I'm not saying we don't have flowery details, but those flowery details, if they're there for a reason. Every word that's why it always sucks when you have to have like a booker or a producer change your stuff. And they're like, have you ever thought of this word? Yes, I've thought of all the words. I've thought every single word, chose this word. It works every time. And now 10 seconds before I go on stage, you're asking me to change the word. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to say wrong 4 more times because we're filling time, right? Okay, so do you now believe that horror movies are good for you?
I think if you want to believe they're good for you, but I didn't even get to the part where I was just so blown away by that I wanted to find out psychologically, are they good for you? Are they affecting people? If you have this urge to murder deep down inside, does watching a horror movie bring that out of you? Yeah. Or, like I said, that's what I was trying to Google, but this was interesting too.
Did you get there or no?
No. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you got so sidebarred by the fact that you might have burnt calories and done a workout accidentally last night. You want to do let's get personal?
Let's get personal. Do it.
Okay. Have you ever distanced yourself from a toxic friend?
Yeah. Definitely. When you're a teenager, I don't think you realize. You just sort of think like, oh, I'm sort of shit and she's not. Like, you know how your group of friends kind of like ends up having peripheral people, and you sort of realize like somebody's in your group of friends that you didn't necessarily choose to be there, but they're there.
Yeah.
And every time you hang out with them, they kind of have cutting remarks, and they're sort of, it's just jokes and it's humor, but you always leave feeling bad or you always kind of like walk away from that person like feeling a bit shit about yourself, and you're just like, Oh, like all those little jokes. It's like death by a thousand paper cuts. And all those
Yes.
little jokes just add up and suddenly you're like, I don't like that person. And I remember I had that revelation recently and I had to tell a mutual friend, I was like, do you know what? Like I don't like this person. And I don't mind. I think they're funny and I think they're awesome. But as far as like me hanging out with them, I was like, I don't need to. And I'd rather not.
Well, I think eventually, and maybe this isn't true, but for me, eventually you start to be like, all right, everyone else seems to like me in my group, and this person doesn't. Like all of a sudden, like everybody else, I walk away and I don't feel bad about myself, but this person always seems to make me feel like I'm the problem. The guy that helped me get into stand up, he would have been a senior when I was a freshman, but he dropped out. So I ended up meeting him through what is still my best friend from high school because they both worked at a toy store together. And he had been doing stand up for like a year and a half. And I wanted to do stand up. And she was like, oh, you should talk to this guy. And so he was very nice to me, helped me out. Like, you know, I was 15 years old. So in my mind, the 17-year-old was like famous. Like I was like, he does it. He does the thing I want to do. Now looking back, I'm like, cool. An open micer was giving me joke advice. But we were friends for 10 years. And in a lot of ways, he was very encouraging and believed in me. But like I helped him out a lot too. Like there were times where like he didn't have a place to stay when he was in New York. So he would stay in my dorm room. Like I would sleep on like a chair, like he would sleep on a chair and I would sleep in my bed. And it was like weird, but at the same time, he was like very like grateful and he never made me feel uncomfortable. And then him and his wife got bed bugs at some point and I let them stay at my place while their place was getting exterminated, which now when you think about it would be like insane. Like, no, like you cannot stay at my place.
Yeah,
But
I
like,
was like, ew, I
but
didn't.
yeah,
Like,
I didn't get it at that time. But like he was important to me and he was weirdly like comedy foundation to me. And in a lot of ways he was encouraging, but he always made me feel less than. Even though like I'm doing these above and beyond things, you don't have a place to stay, you can sleep on this. I had this weird chair that laid out. Like I lived in a dorm, I didn't have space. And then you know, you and your wife are in trouble, you can stay at my place. I made a point to always be there for them because that's how I was taught to be a friend and I wanted to be a good friend, but it was never mutual. Like it was always like, if I needed something or something was important to me, he was always busy. And it started out small and then it just became bigger and bigger. And so I'd start to be like, hey, you did this thing and it hurt my feelings. And he would turn it around. And by the end of the phone conversation, I would be apologizing to him.
oh my God, yes.
And it was crazy. And now I know that it's like gaslighting and like there's all these like terms for it. But it took me 10 years to realize this person never act like he would be nice enough to me to keep me around so that he could use me. But he never actually, I'm not going to say he never cared about me because I don't think that's true. But I had a certain amount of value to him and he would only extend himself to that value. And whenever I started to catch on that maybe he wasn't treating me to my maximum value, he would find a way to show me that I was being shitty to him and I was being a bad friend by bringing it up, or I was actually overlooking all the amazing things he does. It was crazy. He was the only person in my life that did that. And I was in this place where I was just starting to learn how to stick up for myself and talk to friends. And like I was always scared. This was around the time that we became friends, and like I was so terrified to like tell somebody, hey, you did this and it hurt my feelings. And I was just starting to build up the courage, and he probably sent me back emotionally for like 5 years because he was this person that I thought was like one of my closest friends, and he always made me feel bad when I brought something up. And it wasn't until I went through a really bad breakup with a boyfriend, and I started seeing a therapist, and I started going, I don't think this person really actually cares about me. And I started doing tests. Like this is like the famous story that I know you know this story, but like he would always ask me to feed his cats when he was on the road. Him and his wife would be like, hey, we only trust you with our cats. And of course I love cats. My parents are veterinarians. And I had such low self-esteem that I was like, I am honored. I am honored. And so he would pay me, which was nice. And I truly needed the money. So he would pay me and he would always take me out to dinner. And I was like so hungry for his attention that it was like I was feeding these cats so he would give me one-on-one time. And then I started to be like, I bet you if I didn't feed these cats, he would never talk to me again. So it was right around when I was doing the road more. This is about 10 years ago. And he goes, hey, can you feed the cats this weekend? And I was like, I'm actually gone. He's like, no worries. Don't worry about it. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, can you feed the cats? And I go, actually, I can't. I'm really sorry. And then I never heard from him again.
What?
Never heard from him again. Just dropped. Dude, I'm not exaggerating. I never heard from him again. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, oh my God. Like, there's a part of me that was happy I was right. But I was also like, holy shit. This dude did not give a fuck about me. And then I ran into him on the street with his wife, maybe like 4 years later. And what's crazy about it, he's like, hey, how are you doing? It's been so long. We need to catch up. And I was like, dude, it's been 4 years. How are you pretending like it's been 2 months? Like, I was like, it was like, I felt like there was this like hold on me because he had helped me with stand up and we had similar like family issues at the time. Like, we related a lot in a lot of ways. And you know, when you just spend a lot of time with somebody that like just the ounce of being in close proximity or having a past with somebody just makes you feel like that's closeness.
Yeah.
But I've read so many books now that just say you grow out of people, but he was, I don't want to say he was 100% toxic the whole time, but he increasingly became toxic over the years. And it was crazy. He is now like the foundation of, if somebody makes me feel bad, let me take these little steps to see if it's just a communication issue or if this person is toxic. But I mean, now I think he's reached out to me a couple of times to be like, hey, how are you doing? We should be friends. And I'm like, dude, it's been 10 years. Like, he reached out to me for the first time in an email, I think 2 years ago, to be like, hey, if I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. And I'm like, you don't even know what you're apologizing for.
Yeah, seriously. It's just like, I kind of get the feeling from you not talking to me anymore. I've just noticed it's been 10 years that something's wrong. So whatever it is, I'm sorry. Let's move on. My cats, I'm leaving for the...
Yeah, truly. Like, so he's been such a great barometer in just being like, you know what, if you're not adding to my life, if you're not making me feel good, if I'm not making you feel good, because I've also had friends say, hey, you do this thing and it hurts my feelings. And I've had trouble to be like, well, I didn't intend to. Like, it took me a long time not to be defensive about, well, if your feelings are hurt, it wasn't my intention and you should know that. And that's not helpful either. So I'm not saying I've never been a problem in a friendship either, but I've worked really hard and I've actually had some really amazing friends that have helped me walk through the uncomfortableness of being called out on your shit. I don't know. I don't have any friends in my life that make me feel the way this guy did. And I think I've had like 3 friendship breakups in the last 10 years. And every time they're gone, I'm like, oh, I not only never needed that person, but I feel immensely better about myself now that they're gone.
I think it takes you a while to realize that, like, you don't need someone in your life. I think when stuff like this happens to you in your late teens, early 20s, you sort of just go, oh shit, something's wrong with me. I keep fucking up. I'd better apologize. And you live life a little bit and you go, wait, this person sucks and I'm awesome. But it takes a while for you to even realize that. Cause like, you know, interacting with others and friendships and relationships are all fairly new. Yeah. Especially like
you have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah. It just takes you a while to go, oh wait, I'm not a total piece of shit.
And I think I feel fortunate because I had a foundation, because I feel bad for people where they just have this one toxic person. So you have almost nothing, you have nothing to compare to. And then you have nothing if you do drop them, as opposed to when I was 25, I had you, I had Prakash, I had my friend Amanda, I had Ash, like I had foundation friendships from high school. I had foundation friendships from comedy. I had foundation friendships from college. So I had at least 6 people that I go, you know, I'm the same person with them and they don't make me feel this way. So I can do this kind of compare and contrast where it feels like the rotten egg is this person.
Yeah.
And people sometimes don't have that. They either don't have the ability to do that compare and contrast, and or they know that information, but they're like, it's better to have one toxic person than no people.
So you're very fortunate to have me, Liz.
I've always said that. I've always said that. You go fuck yourself. I've always loved you, and I've told you you're special.
Aww. Aww. I love you too.
I love you, my friend. Let's get into our topic. I think we're similar in some aspects, but so our topic is exercise, but like, what's your preferred exercise? But I think the initial question is really, do you desire exercise? Like, is it exercise a part of, I want to say like your spirit? Like my family is an exercise family.
My family is not.
Can I ask a blunt question?
Yeah.
Do you think that has to do with being an immigrant? I feel like
probably.
I feel like some of my immigrant families, like, they're just like, no, I have to work. I have shit to do. Like, I don't have time to care about my body.
Yeah, it's a very American thing. No, I don't know. But
I think it's a privilege thing to, like,
yeah.
I have time to, like, run in circles.
If you're going by, like, the hierarchy of needs, and if you're a poor family, like as my parents were poor growing up in Egypt, I don't think that tennis was on the radar. So I think I've told the story about my dad taking like buns to the community oven and on his head, and me taking a surfboard to the beach, and it was just like, I'm just much luckier. I'm luckier, and it's great. But yeah,
Thanks, Dad.
The place you're at with exercise, I have been in, but I'm not there by default, and it takes me a lot of work to get into this place of desiring exercise, because like if I start seeing results and things are working and I'm going regularly, it's not even desire, it's guilt if I don't go. But I don't go, oh, I need to exercise. And maybe
it's not like
when
a
I was
physical need, it's a psychological awareness.
What?
Because like a physical need is like, I feel like my need for exercise is physical as well as a little bit mental because it helps with my anxiety. But I feel like when you go to exercise or you feel guilt to exercise, it has to do with the fact that like I'm getting results and I'll ruin all this work that I did if I don't go.
Right. So I've been motivated through guilt. And I guess when I was doing hot yoga regularly, when I was living in LA and I wasn't drinking, I'd get off work and I would work a 10-hour shift and I would still want to go to yoga, because rather than it being a thing I had to do, it was how I relaxed. And it was amazing. But that's rare for me. I mean, normally I have to be tricked into exercise. Like I have to be, if I'm walking, it's because we're going somewhere. And if it's
from running, it's because the bus is leaving.
Exactly. And if I'm going uphill, it's because we're hiking and talking and we're going to go to lunch after. But I can't
remember being in LA and like it was always about what we were doing after the hike. Like we'll go to this cafe and they have really good, like it's like affordable, and they like I always remembered like there was this like 5-point plan of everything we did after the hike, but the hike was like the thing that we couldn't do it until we did the hike.
Exactly. Let's just get through the hike and then I needed that thing to look forward to. So for me, it's better if it's an activity like tennis or yoga or hiking, rather than going to the gym and being on a treadmill for a half an hour, 45 minutes. I can't do that. I can do a spin class. I can do classes. I can't just like lift weights on a bench.
Do you like classes?
Yeah, well, it depends on the class. It depends on the instructor. But I like yoga classes, and classes do push me more than I would ever push myself. So yeah, I do.
Do you need the embarrassment of not trying? Like you know how like people write screenplays publicly because they need people to almost be guilted into working?
No, in fact, like it's not about if I tap out, I'm embarrassed, because I think last time I did hot yoga with you, I tapped out for a lot of it because I was feeling really nauseous, and I would just get into child's pose, which is fine. I don't really actually, what motivates me, I'm very Monica in this way, in that like I want to be in front of the class. I want everyone looking at me and following my lead. And that's what motivates me to do a good job, is if everyone can see me like, and I'm killing it. But like spin class, I remember there was this one place I went to had on the board who was doing what and like what speed and whatever. And I was the very last, and it killed it. It killed any desire to want to go to that spin class. It made me go, fuck it. I suck at this. I need to know that I'm good at something to want to keep going. Like if you want to get me to do the dishes, all you have to do is say, Maria, you are so good at doing the dishes. And I'm like, bitch, watch this. And like,
Which is so funny because it's actually made me realize how hard comedy was for you to do it in the beginning, and how much easier and more rewarding it is for you to do it now as somebody that's more experienced and people like what you do and you get more compliments, and like you're very positive driven. Like there's I can't imagine you ever being like a corporation that's just like, what are you doing, Maria? You need to get better. But like, you can't be like yelled at into doing better. You'd be like, you'll get yelled at into quitting.
Oh, totally. I would get I don't need this shit and like leave. But like, if you were like, man, Maria, you're so full of good ideas, I can't wait to hear your next one. I'm like, oh, well, let me think of like a million. And then, I'm definitely positive reinforcement driven.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, I've changed, like, my desire to exercise and why I exercise and what drives me has evolved so much. Like, I did gymnastics from 3 to 14. So, in some ways I think when people do some form of exercise or sport really young, I think it shapes your body. I think it actually kind of gives you a foundation of somewhat what your body is going to look like and or what you need to feel whole. And what I mean about that is, like, I practice gymnastics 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. And when I stopped because of anxiety. I didn't realize that's why I was stopping, but I was having panic attacks and I was having trouble doing certain moves. And I had these Russian and Polish coaches that were just mean. And I am also a positive reinforcement person. And I was like, why am I like, this is supposed to be my free time. And I don't feel like I'm hitting the goals that I had for backflips and what have you. It stopped being emotionally fun. Physically, it's daunting. And then I have all this anxiety. So I stopped, and very quickly I gained a bunch of weight because I was 14 and I would ate so poorly as a child. And I thought it didn't matter. And then you go through puberty and your body's like, hey, you'll forever be trying to get off this weight. Good luck. And so I started trying to find my next physical activity. Like, I think I went without moving for 2 months, and I was so depressed and so unhappy that I was like, I need to move. I need to find it. So I tried swimming. It was not swimming. I've never been a strong swimmer. I just hated it. I don't think I like water. I truly don't think I enjoy water. And so then I found running. And what I liked about running, and again, slow, my family loves the fact that I joined the track team. And I thought because gymnastics, you would sprint and do the vault, that I was good at sprinting, and I was not. I was the worst on the team, always came in last. My mom would come to meets and she'd be like, you were doing it. And I was like, shut up. Like, I was so bad. So then I quit because, again, no positive reinforcement. I was the worst on the team, and it was embarrassing to be so slow. And somebody should have been like, you have tiny legs. What made you think you were going to fucking be great at this? So I just started running on my own. And what I started to realize is it helped me feel so much better. Like, it was like this alone time I craved. I would just, I don't know, like, it would just calm me. And this was around the time I was about 15, 16. I was starting to think of joke ideas. So I would just let my mind wander. I was away from my family. It was like nobody made me feel bad for, like, I had so much responsibility taking care of my brothers and helping my mom. And I was so overwhelmed as a teenager that this was my alone time. And nobody made me feel bad. We were a family that exercise was important and physical health was important. That if I said I went for a run, nobody was like, what are you playing video games with your friends? It was like, oh, okay. When you come back, can you do the dishes? Like, it wasn't penalized the way hanging out with a friend or even just being in your room. We would, like, be penalized for, like, being alone in our room. Like, why aren't you helping your mother? And you're like, I that's all I did today.
Yeah.
So it was like rewarding alone time, and I learned to really enjoy it, even though, again, I wasn't good at it. And then I remember making this promise to myself, because I was still, like, flaky about it because it was really hard. I remember I said when I went to college, I was going to join a gym and I was going to go every day. And that's exactly what I did. I felt like, because, like, outside was cold and my parents had, like, a couple of weights. They had, like, an outdoor gym, which was truly the garage. And it was like a bench and some weights, and it was freezing in there and I hated it. And so I was like, if I join a proper gym, I'm not going to flake out on these activities because I won't be freezing. And so I joined a gym when I was in college, and I went every day. I would run this track every day, and I accidentally started getting faster because I would just run the track for an hour. And all of a sudden I started paying attention to how many miles I was doing, because I think it was like 4 laps to a mile or something like that. And next thing I know, I thought I was running 6 miles, and it turns out I thought I was running like 4.5 miles, and it turns out I was running 6 miles, and I was getting it down to like a 10-minute mile. And that knowledge of actually getting better was the first time that I started to enjoy running for just running. Like, before, it was just to lose weight. But as soon as I started seeing that I could get better at something, it, like, something clicked in me, and I was like, oh, I could improve. And that was a reward itself.
I think that's a huge thing. Like, I've always hated running. I've never taken to it because I feel like my life is ending when I run. And I remember you staying with me and you would try to get me to run, but because you were really smart about it, because you were like, well, if you run from here to the end of the block, that's it for today and that's fine. Then we can go to lunch. You're like, then we can go to lunch. And then, it's just, I'm supposed to slowly increase it. And unfortunately, you had to go back to whatever city you lived in. And so I didn't keep up the running, but like the hiking remember, I was much better at hiking than you were.
Yeah, very much.
And oh my God, I was so out of breath like 2 minutes into hiking last time I was in LA. I was like, I used to be able to do this. I would do it backwards and I would like run up, and then losing weight and stuff. All of that motivates you to keep going. And I need that. And I think, and I don't know if it's a birth control or my age or what, but I have not seen, like, for the efforts that I've put in, I've not seen as many results. And so I lose motivation and I just stop. And I think this is just one of those things that as you get older, it becomes a downward spiral because you're not seeing the results you want. It's too hard. You give up, you get fatter. And it's just from there, it's just fuck it. And I'm really worried about that place.
Yeah, and I kind of relate to it in a lot of ways because every time I've injured myself, I have to take time off, and I'm not completely starting from the beginning because there is some muscle memory, but like to be able to run, let's say an 8-minute mile, and then you injure yourself and you come back like 3 weeks later and now you're running an 11-minute mile, you're like, what's the point? Like, what the fuck? And I've had to start over in even just my physical fitness and goals so many times. I mean, I think that's some of the things that makes me fear about comedy is like, I worked so hard to get here and now my like comedy fitness is going to be lacking. And it's like, no.
Oh, totally. Ben Folds wrote in his book that you have to break the cycle every once in a while to focus on something else because, you don't know what's going to come out of it, and something came out of it for him. It's not the end of the world if you do break your cycle. But now the cycles have been broken for everybody. And now we're all going, oh, shit, what's going to happen when we go back? I don't know what kind of comedian I'm going to be.
I actually wonder, okay, so think of it this way. When you first start writing jokes before you ever perform and you have no experience, you're like, I have no idea if this is funny. I have no idea. And then you do it and you get some feedback and then you start building off the feedback. Now, as experienced comedians, you go to do a joke and you don't need as much feedback because you have experience, you know your voice, you have a more stronger confidence and basic understanding of what you're going to say, what you find funny and what you think the audience is finding funny. Yes, you still feed off the audience and you still build and adjust through it. But I think before it was 95% the audience depicting where you're going to go. And now to me, it's like 30%. And so I'm curious of what it's going to be like to build full jokes and try to build full jokes in quarantine without much response to the audience, and how that's going to shape me as a comic and what that material is going to look like. And if it's going to look different, if parts of me that I wouldn't have explored come out because I'm not letting the audience refocus me the way it has before. So quarantine gives you too much time, but I do think any form of rest has value. The same way that I can tell you running saved my life in the sense that I can't meditate. I don't want to say I can't meditate. I struggle to meditate, and running has been the closest I've gotten to meditating. I zone out. I let my mind wander. I have moments of honestly being like this kind of running high where I just feel good and I'm thinking of nothing. The reason I continue running 15 years after I started, or even longer, is because it mentally helps me. It's not even a physical, because I've had so many setbacks physically that the only real motivation is emotional and mental and the calming aspect of it. Just the same way that you were doing hot yoga after work because it was calming. Yes, it had other benefits to it, but most people don't think doing exercise post a long day on your feet is relaxing.
I'm really impressed the way you got out of the comedy conversation and back into what we were talking about, because a lot of the times I feel like we always end up talking about comedy. It's like the gutter of our bowling alley conversations. Yeah, it's like, oh shit, we've gone in the gutter again.
Fuck, we're talking about comedy again. Yeah, I think we're always going to kind of stem back to it because it truly is a part of us. But I actually, my running, my two identities, like if you ask any comic that's a peer of mine, my identities is comedy or a certain type of comedy probably, but like storytelling in running.
Oh yeah, like if it were college, I would be like, oh yeah, she majors in stand up and she minors in running and cats.
Yeah,
And then like
exactly. She knows a fair amount about these things, and she has a job in this thing. It just, I don't know. It's so important to my mental health, and then also just I need to move. I don't know what it is. Like my mom has done every exercise fad since probably the 80s. Some of them I remember, and some of them I just remember the VHS tapes.
yeah.
So she's done literally, I remember the one I have the strongest memory of is Taibo. Because I would try to do Taibo and I was like, how is she punching the air by herself? Like, this is so dumb. Could not understand it. But again, I was trying to lose weight when I was in high school and I was like, all right, my mom's doing Taibo. Maybe it works. And then I'm there like double timing it. And I was like, this is dumb. My school didn't have like sports because it was in the city and it just wasn't that kind of school. But it had like an extracurricular marathon program. And I didn't even know what a marathon was, by the way. I just thought it was a long race. And I signed up for this like after like, this extracurricular marathon club. And they said, hey, if you guys want to sign up, we can get you in. You just have to like fundraise for charity. And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. It said 26.2 miles, but I'm not smart. And that didn't seem long to me. I don't know why, because a mile seems very long. And I remember training. I remember I went on the West Side Highway and I was going to run 10 miles. I like mapped it out. Like if I get up to this street, it's 10 miles. And then I was going to buy a Gatorade and take the subway home. And I was such a mess after running these 10 miles. Like, I mean, my whole body was salt. Like I was just like covered in sweat salt. I got on the subway. I was like, not okay. I was like drinking a Gatorade like I like was walking through the desert for 4 days. I got to my dorm. I had this little chair that could like come out and almost be like a bed. And I laid down in the chair and I fell asleep for 3 hours. Like I never showered and like I just sat in my bed and I passed out in my grossness.
Well, that's how you get cavities, Liz.
Yeah, exactly. And also not a boyfriend for several years. And and so I remember being like, I was a mess. And like, it was the first time that I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into? If I'm dying after 10 miles, who am I going to be after 26? I did it though. I finished. It took me over 6 hours to finish.
Yay. How long does it take you to finish a marathon now?
The best, I don't want to say now because I've never gotten great. The best marathon I ever did, I was 21 and I did it in 4 hours and 34 minutes. And
Amazing.
that's what's funny about it is I'm impressed and I'm blown away and I'm really proud of myself. But honestly, like, I think as a 21-year-old woman to qualify for Boston, I would have to do it in under 3 hours. Like, I've never gotten anywhere close to anything truly athletic, but I've improved. And I think I worked really hard mentally to just be proud of my personal improvements. You know how they're like, put your blinders on, just focus on yourself. Like almost the same way they talk about Instagram. Like, don't look at other people's accomplishments and holidays and all this other stuff. Just focus on you. And you're like, yeah, that's easier said than done. But running was probably the first time I ever was able to go, hey, I did better. Hey, I got faster. Hey, I made goals and I reached them. And I try to use my ability to be proud of my running growth in stand up and not focus on this person got in this magazine, this person got on this TV show, and go, hey, my goal was to do an hour and I did an hour. My goal was to do a long story and keep people entertained for a 10-minute story, and I did it.
I know. My goal was to have my own sitcom by now.
And we have podcast.
I need smaller goals.
But it really did teach me about bite-sized goals, though, because if your goal is I'm gonna run a marathon and win the marathon, you're delusional. And I think a lot of people do that with stand-up or work goals, which is like, I'm gonna be fucking the next Kevin Hart, and you're like, okay, cool. You're setting yourself up for so much pain. And I think so many, honestly, anybody in kind of Hollywoody, show businessy stuff does it to themselves. And I was doing that to myself, not even because I don't think I ever wanted to be famous, but I just wanted to be a well-known comic. I wanted my peers to respect me. And I was like shooting for these goals that I had no control over. And I think running was the first time, you always hear that, there's so much you don't have control over and you're torturing yourself. And I was like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then I was able to somehow mentally understand that with running And by understanding it with running, I was able to then kind of paste it on to stand up, because I was so miserable with not reaching my goals in stand up for so long. And as soon as I started to make them more bite sized, started to be like, I just want to get this much stage time, or I just want to be able to have a full hour and put out an album, like stuff that was more under my control, more digestible, and wasn't controlled by the business. I was so much happier. And I think that happens a lot with weight, like with controlling your weight, especially as women. Not to say I just don't really have the perspective for men, although, you know, it was always something important to like my brothers and other guy friends. But like clearly with women, we've talked about it a lot more. And I think we start struggling with it a lot earlier. But I do feel like as soon as I stopped making my fitness goals about weight, which felt so uncontrollable, I was so much happier with exercise, and I'd like to exercise a lot more. But when exercise, and it still fluctuates, there'll be days where like, or there'll be years where I'm like, I've gained so much weight and I don't fit into my pants and I'm unhappy. And now fitness is about losing 10 pounds. It makes it a job for me.
You make me want to like run out and go. I want to go running. I should run. It's free. She's right. You're very inspiring, Liz. I hate running.
Thank you. Also, I've always said, and I've always tried to show you that it's about starting small. Like truly, if you run a block, walk 5 minutes, run a block, walk 5 minutes, it'll be crazy how quickly you can build up to running consistently for 10 minutes. But I think most people believe that we should just be able to go out and just run as much as you can. And there are people that are able to do that, but I've never been that level of athletic that I can just I can't even tell you how many times I've come back from injury and I'm like, oh my God, I can't run for 10 minutes without stopping. This is insane. I've run marathons without stopping. The best thing I've ever done for myself in general, exercise, work, whatever, has been breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. Like my desk looks like somebody shook papers and pens all over it. It's insane.
I can confirm this.
And it gets like that every 2 weeks. There's no container stored contraption that can stop my desk chaos.
Same thing happens to my desktop, like on my computer.
Yes.
Like,
oh my
I'll
God.
Clean it up by just throwing everything into a folder, going stuff. And then And then like 2 weeks later, it's a bunch of shit on my desktop again.
Dude, I am such a clutter bug. But what I'll do is I'll go, okay, every time I pass my desk, I'm going to put all the pens away. And then every time I pass my desk, I'm going to pick up 3 pieces of paper and make a decision about this paper. Am I throwing it away? Am I filing it? Am I doing whatever I'm supposed to do? Because what happens is I'll have a piece of paper and I'll be like, okay, this is important. I'm going to keep it out. And then I'll have another piece of paper and I'll be like, this feels important, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to keep it out. And I just prolong it. And then I just have a desk full of papers and I go, fuck, I was supposed to pay that bill 3 weeks ago. This is a receipt from 2015 that I was supposed to put somewhere. Like
I think we
said some stuff.
We did something here. Yeah.
And I feel like just apologizing after every episode. I'm sorry.
Thank you for listening. We're sorry you listened.
Yeah, I hope you ran. I hope you cleaned something.
Do you like horror movies? Why not?
Yeah, I want to know. I definitely want to know if you think it's healthy for you.
Follow us on YouTube, Instagram.
Everything is 2 non-doctors, full word doctors, except for Instagram, which is 2 non-DRS.
Yeah, I'm going to have a word with those other doctors.
Yeah, no, we're going to find them and we're going to shoot them. But yeah, and then, email 2nondoctors@gmail.com.
Don't forget, we have a Patreon if you want bonus episodes or if you want a shout out.
We should just thank our Patreons. Thank you so much. We are grateful. We appreciate you.
Thank you for everything.
We love you so much. We have nothing.
We'll be back next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Please don't slam the door in my face.